What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be attempting the Copycat challenge in the Open Great League, but with my own unique twist. So for those of you that don't know what the Copycat challenge is, essentially you go into battle with whatever team initially, then after every battle you copy the previous opponent's team. So for example, if I battled against someone running a very toxic Bastidon, Wigglytuff and Shadow Victory Bell team, I'd then have to run that team in my next battle. The twist here is that I'm not going to copy the exact same teams that I see because, in my opinion, that would be quite boring, so instead I'll be running the Spicier equivalent to that team, using Pokemon with the exact same typing if available, or whatever is closest. So with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. Which dual typing that's currently unique to just one species or one family of Pokemon would you like to see return in a future generation? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so go into the first battle, we need Shadow Barrel into Whiscash. So I'm just starting with the team I ran in my previous video because obviously I don't have any opponents yet to copy. So we're going to see a Whiscash in the lead. Gonna let the first move go through. With Whiscash, they might have a Skarmory in the back, so I've got to be very careful here. I'm going to go for the Hyper Fang on the CMP tie, and it does huge damage. It does connect. Unfortunately, it doesn't quite take them out, so they do get off the Mud Bomb. I'm going to shield this up in case it is the Skarmory in the back, and the opponent comes in with a Lickitung. So I'm actually just going to stay in here. I've got two fighting types in the back, but unfortunately they don't have the greatest matchups up against the Lickitung, but I do at least grab a shield there from the opponent, and the opponent's just going to fire off a Body Slam. So we come in with our Shadow Sneasler, and I'm just going to go straight for the close combat here. I think the opponent might just let this move go through, but no, unfortunately they do shield it up, so I swap. I do obviously debuff my defense there, which isn't ideal, and now unfortunately as well, they're going to outpace me to two Body Slams there before I make it to a close combat, so I actually let that move go through. We go for a Leaf Blade, and that actually puts them into farm down range for my Shadow Sneasler. At least I hope it does anyway, so we're going to shield out the Body Slam, but the opponent has a Mandibuzz in the back, and unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to take this game, so I let the opponent get off their charge move. Aerial Ace will be taking out the Shadow Sneasler, and we do unfortunately lose that game, but honestly that battle wasn't too important. All we needed was an opponent's team to copy, but then make it a little bit spicier. So here, instead of the Whiscash, we're running Marsh Stomp, as we can still go for Mud Bombs here. Obviously I could run Surf, but this is a purified Marsh Stomp, so I'm running Return as the second charge move. Of course, up against Annihilate, that doesn't really help us, but it might help us in future battles if we do get another Marsh Stomp. But here, I shielded that up. I thought because they overfarmed so much, they might have close combat and just didn't want to throw it straight away, but they swap into Skarmory, and the nice thing about Licky here is that we do at least have neutral charge moves to throw into the Skarmory, so we're not completely walled, but the opponent can still let the Body Slam go through. We throw on the CMP tie, the opponent goes for a Sky Attack, and they will get a nice Steel Wing farm down. There should be two fast moves away from the next charge move, so I'm going to come in with my Marsh Stomp, throw on the CMP tie, and if the opponent wants to shield this up, that's absolutely fine with me, but they do just let the Mud Bomb go through. I'm now going to see that the opponent's going to come back in with the Annihilate. We swap into our Moltres, Galarian Moltres, and the opponent swaps at the exact same time. So they might have banked a charge move there. I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like they probably have. We're going to let the Body Slam go through. I thought that was a CMP tie, but obviously we would have lost it, so that wouldn't have been the case. So unfortunately, I end up over-farming over 100 energy, which isn't ideal, but I don't think it makes too much of a difference here. I'm now going to go and grab a shield with the Ancient Power. Unfortunately, no boost, but now I can go for a Payback. Payback does big damage there. It gets them very low. I don't think I can afford to shield this up because they do still have the Annihilate in the back. They're already out of charge route. I think my only win condition is if somehow I can go for a full Mudshot farm down before they make it to another charge move, but unfortunately, I'm not able to do so. Ice Punch will be enough damage to take out the Marsh Stomp, and unfortunately, we lose yet another game. But don't worry, there are a lot of wins in this video, but usually I try to like evenly distribute the wins and losses in my videos. Here I kind of have to show them back to back, so you're just going to see me either win a lot of games in a row or lose a lot of games. But here we go for a close combat with our Primeape, which by the way is running the Legacy Karate Chop fast move, which is why we were able to get to that close combat so quickly. Once again, the opponent has a Skarmory in the back. We're going to come in with our Licky, let the first move go through, and once again we can go for the Shadow Ball here. Shadow Ball going to do some very nice damage if they let it go through, which they do, and at this point they're not swapping out, so I'm actually going to shield this up. I don't know what they've got in the back, but Licky might be pretty good here, and it's actually a Shadow Swampert, so we're going to go for the Body Slam here. Body Slam going to do some nice damage. We're not quite as bulky as a Lickitung, so Body Slam, even though of course we don't have Power Whip, it's still going to do quite a lot of damage. We actually grab both shields there. We swap into our Primate, and I make quite a significant mistake here, as I could actually make it to a close combat throw on CMP, but I didn't realize that they were actually one mud shot away from the back-to-back Hydro Cannon. So there, we settle for the Night Sash. It doesn't really make a difference here, as I can come in with my Celesteela. I am running Smackdown on my Celesteela just because I used it in a previous video. Obviously, in this matchup, it's not too good because they are resisting it, but I can live one Hydro Cannon. They swap into their Skarmory. We can Smackdown, farm them all the way down, come out with a Body Slam loaded as well, and Celesteela will be able to take out the Shadow Swampert, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we're going to see Shadow Cloyster as our Dugong in the lead, and the opponent's running a Charm Whimsicott, which is quite interesting. I'm going to go straight for an Icy Wind here. The opponent doesn't swap out to try and catch the move. Icy Wind will be debuffing their attack, and the opponent safe swaps into Bastiodon, and that is a very odd decision there from the opponent. Sure, Bastiodon, very strong Pokemon, really annoying to deal with, but don't use it as a safe swap because it gets so easily hard-walled by so many Pokemon. Here, I'm going to go for the Earth Power, and now I will be able to fully Mudshot farm them down, and because of Seismitoad's coverage, we can go for the back-to-back Sludge Bombs up against the Whimsicott coming back in, and this is going to be double super effective. The first one grabs a shield, the second one will easily be enough damage to take out the Whimsicott, and the opponent's got a Whiscash in the back. Now here, I could shield this up, I could go for the Earth Power, but I'm actually going to let the move go through. Mud Bomb does take us out. We come back in with our Shadow Cloyster, and we are running Razor Shell as our second charge move, just because I didn't want to use too many charge DMs. I basically got rid of Hydro Pump, got Razor Shell, and that was fine with me. It is a nice bait move actually, and you will see me using it in this battle here, as there's no point going for an Avalanche at this point. Oh, sorry, not Avalanche, Icy Wind. We can go for the Razor Shell, and it's not a great move in terms of the damage per energy, but Razor Shell takes out the Whiscash, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we're gonna run Shinotic as our Whimsicott. I try to avoid using Charm users if possible, and we see a Jellicent in the lead. So I'm gonna go straight for a Seed Bomb here. Seed Bomb is gonna grab a shield from the opponent. Now we can live a Shadow Ball, but if they do land the Shadow Ball, they can then just bait with the Surfs, and that would probably take us out from that range. But the opponent's gonna safe swap into a Lickitung. So we're gonna come in with our Shadow Probopass, which is acting like the Bastiodon for this team. I'm gonna go for the Rock Slide, throwing it straight away, not running Zap Cannon on my Probopass just because I don't have too many charge DMs, and I've not used this since it has learned Zap Cannon. But here, I'm just going to let this move go through, and they go for a Body Slam, which is double resisted. That allows me to make it to a Rock Slide, and this will allow me to maintain alignment up against this Lickitung. The opponent probably going to come back in with their Jellicent. They do exactly that. We can come in with our Shinotic here, and we're still able to pace to the charge move at the same time as the opponent. We go for the Seed Bomb, grabbing the final shield from the opponent, and at this point, I'm going to let the move go through, and then I'm instantly going to swap into my Marshtomp, and the opponent swaps at the same time. They've got Carbink in the back, and this is a really positive matchup for us, but we've got Return. I'm really tempted to try and go for a Return BM in this matchup here, but let's see. We're going to shield up the charge move. Of course, they could go for Moonblast. It is just a Rock Slide, so good bait there. Moonblast still wouldn't KO, but honestly, these rock throws are going to start adding up. We are going to try and go for a full Mudshot farm down. I think this should just be another Rock Slide here. It is the Rock Slide. It is still resisted. We're going to go for the Mudshot farm down. The opponent swaps out with like 1 HP remaining. I'm going to go for the Mud Bomb here. Mud Bomb gets them very low. I'm going to bank the Return, swap into my Shinotic here. I'm actually going to let them fully Rock Throw farm me down just to go for the Return whilst they're at 1 HP and a Dream, and Return will be enough damage to take out the Carbink there, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, and by the way, I did actually build a few new Pokemon just for this challenge, like the Diancie here in the back, because why would I have one built anyways? But we're going to see the opponent goes for a Hydro Cannon. That does quite a lot of damage, but then they swap into a Gligar. Do they know about their Ice Beam? Unfortunately, they do end up shielding up. Makes sense, we're a water type, so I'm going to shield this up just so I can get off another Ice Beam before they can farm me down or go for a charge move to take me out here. But we're going to go for the Ice Beam now. Ice Beam is going to grab the final shield from the opponent, and they don't really overfarm too much either, so I will let this move go through. Aerial Ace will be taking us out. And now we're going to wait out the switch clock, come in with my Diancie here as I am resisting these wing attacks, and then I'm going to swap, I'm going to catch the dig onto my Licky Licky, and this dig is going to do some decent damage there, but Licky Licky is fairly bulky. The opponent then comes in with their Talonflame, and this is a really smart play by the opponent. I was thinking I'll wait for them to throw here, because then I can just farm them down with my Diancie, but the opponent is choosing not to throw on purpose, which is really smart, because obviously the less farm they give me with my Diancie, the better chances they've got of winning, but I'm able to recognize that, so I put them into one rock throw farm down range so I can get the farm down. They only get off one fly, and now all I need to do is shield up against the Shadow Swampert. I don't believe the switch clock is up yet, so now we can go for a Moonblast up against the Swampert. Moonblast takes out the Swampert, and I'm able to rock throw, farm down the Shadow Gligar, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into the next battle, we see Seismitoad, which I am using as my Shadow Swampert replacement, into Azumarill, and this is actually a pretty good matchup for us, so just going to go straight for the Sludge Bomb here, throwing after 7 Mud Shots. Sludge Bomb is going to connect, it does some very nice damage to the Azumarill. I'm going to shield the first move. It's a Hydro Pump, which would have done huge damage. The opponent safe swaps into Venusaur, and we've got our Shadow Ho-Oh acting as the Talonflame for this team. We can safely let the move go through, go for a full Incinerate farm down, and then we'll go for a Brave Bird if the Azu comes back in, but it's actually a Bastiodon, so we're full sending the Earthquake, nearly one-shotting the Bastiodon from full health there. Now we can Mud Shot, farm down the Bastiodon, so the opponent just concedes the match there. So GG's to the opponent there. Into next game, we've got Primarina acting as the Azumarill for this team. The opponent's going to safe swap into Skarmory, so I'm going to stay in initially just because we can, of course, wall the energy on our Probopass. This time we're running the non-Shadow. I don't think it was intentional, but we're just running it anyways. The opponent's going to go for the Brave Bird there. Honestly, I'm happy to let them get off a second Brave Bird, as this will get me fairly low. Ideally, want to leave our Probopass as low as possible there, but I don't know if I can tank another Brave Bird, so I do farm them down eventually. They're only going to get maybe 3 counters off anyway, so it doesn't really matter. We do grab a shield with the Thunderbolt, once again not running Zap Cannon, but can't really afford to TM these Pokemon right now, as we are in the middle of a Team Rocket event, which I actually completely forgot about, so I've actually got to go out right after I finish recording this, which is already very late for me, like nearly 10 PM. We're going to shield up the Night Slash. It's just a Night Slash, so unfortunately I think they will barely outpace me to the next charge move, and I've just got to hope that my Ivysaur can take this game somehow. So we come in with the Ivysaur, and I realise that I'm actually running Razor Leaf on the Ivysaur. Not really sure why, I can't remember the last time I used this Ivysaur, but we're able to get the full farm down, and it's a Lantern in the back, so coming in clutch for me there. Ivysaur forces the opponent to concede the match, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to the opponent there. Into next game, another Primeape that we're running instead of the Annihilate. Unfortunately, not running Ice Punch there, which would be really good, but I'm able to swap, catch the resisted Aerial Ace onto my Celesteela. Unfortunately, the opponent comes in with a Lantern, so they are just completely hard-walling me so far in this battle. I'm actually going to shield this up because I can now go for a Bulldoze, and if nothing else, Bulldoze will at least grab a shield, but if they let this go through, it's going to do huge damage to the Lantern, so they do respect the damage. But remember, we are running Karate Chop on my Primeape. We're only 1 away. The opponent over farms here, allowing me to make it to a close combat, one-shotting the Lantern. We're now going to swap immediately into our Chinchou. We can go for a Bubble Beam here, throwing straight away just before they make it to a potential dig. And Bubble Beam will go no shielded. Unfortunately, doesn't do an awful lot of damage here. They're going to go for the dig, and they've got Annihilate in the bag, so pretty similar team to the one we just faced, obviously just a slightly different order, but we're going to see the opponent goes for an Ice Punch. That is resisted damage. Not really sure why they went for the Ice Punch there, but it doesn't really make a difference here. We can go for a Thunderbolt. They still will be able to fully counter, farm me down just before we're able to farm them down, and unfortunately this is game over. The opponent goes for another Ice Punch there, not going for the Shadow Ball for whatever reason, but they still got way too much health on their Gligar, and they're able to wing attack, farm me down, and take that game. So into next battle, we're going to see Shadow Gliscor into Gligar. This is a slightly spicier version of the Gligar, of course. We are running Night Slash. I don't know if Aerial Ace is better for us here, just because obviously it takes a very long time to make it to the Earthquake, well, compared to the dig anyways. But the opponent goes for the Aerial Ace there. We should be able to outpace them. I'm going to throw on what should be a CMP tie, but the opponent's going to recognize that actually they can just shield this up, go for a full wing attack farm down, and they will be able to get rid of me there. So unfortunately, they've got quite a lot of energy. They can hit for super effective damage up against both my Pokemon in the back, so certainly not ideal. I'm hoping I can at least make it to a Bubble Beam, but I'm not able to do so in time, so Dig, gonna do huge damage there. We're gonna swap into our Primate, but the opponent is going to have probably something pretty good up against us. It's actually a Poliwrath, so I'm not sure if they're going to know about the close combat coming through here. Close combat, we're going to fire it off just before they make it to the Icy Wind, but unfortunately it doesn't quite take them out there. And now the opponent can go for the Icy Wind, debuff my attack. They come in with a Lantern, we're just going to fire off another close combat. We are now debuffed, so this isn't going to do nearly as much damage up against the Lantern, and they can just very easily Spark, farm down my Chinchou, and we do unfortunately lose that game. So once again, running a very similar team to the previous team, and this is why I kind of got bored of this challenge, because I basically just faced up against very similar teams, and yeah, it's just boring to run the same teams over and over again. But here we're going to go for an Earthquake up against this Lickitung, and the opponent is going to let that through, so I'm now going to swap. I tried to catch the Body Slam there. I've now got to respect the damage coming from a potential Power Whip, and they do full send the Power Whip. They now come in with Gligar. Typically, I think you would run Aerial Ace here, so we go for the Liquidation, dealing huge damage. Unfortunately, not quite enough damage to take them out before they do make it to an Aerial Ace, so I'm actually just going to let that go through. Can't really afford to go down 2 shields in this matchup, so now I'm going to come in with my Chinchou, go for the Spark Farm Down, and let's see what the opponent wants to do. The opponent's going to come in with a Shadow Camerupt, which is insanely spicy, by the way. Bubble Beam is going to hit for double super effective, but unfortunately Chinchou has a very low attack stat, so whilst it is double super effective, it's still not quite going to be enough damage to KO a Camerupt there. As you can see, as the opponent lets that go through, I'm now going to shield this up. They're going to go for 1 extra Incinerate, I believe, and so I'm going to swap here just before they make it to the charge move, but the opponent swaps at the exact same time, and that's a really nice play from the opponent, as Incinerate will be enough damage to take out my Shadow Gliscor, but the opponent didn't realize that, and they end up going for 1 extra Incinerate, allowing me to make it to the Bubble Beam, taking out the Shadow Camerupt, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Very spicy Pokemon in the back. Honestly, I don't think I have anything quite as spicy as that Shadow Camerupt, but I'm going to be running my level 50 Hisuian Growlithe instead, as it's still double weak to the water typing. But here we're going to see a Wigglytuff in the lead, so not ideal for me, but I'm expecting it to be like Bastiodon and Shadow Victory Belt in the back, so kind of just have to stay in initially. I'm actually going to shield that up, just because if I don't use shields now, I probably won't have the opportunity to use shields in the end game, and here we do at least grab a shield back from the opponent. We're now going to go for a Body Slam here up against this Wigglytuff, and this will put them into Ember farm down range for my Hisuian Growlithe. They're able to farm me down with the charm damage though, and actually swap out into their Bastiodon, so this is fine with me. We're going to come in with the Shadow Gliscor here, go for an Earthquake on the CMB tie with the Stone Edge, and Earthquake is going to do huge damage there, but it actually doesn't quite take them out there. And honestly, I completely forgot that Earthquake was nerfed from a previous season. Well, it's actually like last season or the season before that was nerfed, but I probably just haven't used that many Earthquake users, and unfortunately we lose CMP here. Icy Wind will be taking me out, but we do get the Ember farm down, and the opponent does have the Shadow Victory Belt in the back, so we're going to go for the Ember farm down, and we do just narrowly get the farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So GG's to that opponent there. Into the next game, we're going to be using Comfy as our Wigglytuff replacement, because honestly, there aren't any other, well, I'm not going to use a Jigglypuff because I just don't have one maxed out, and it's not going to be very good here, but unfortunately, we're getting completely walled by this Talonflame, and this is one of the issues with the team. Honestly, I don't know what the hell do you do there? You obviously have you have to just stay in, because Ivysaur or Shadow Victory Belt is going to be a lot worse in that matchup, and now the opponent's just got the right alignment. What can I do? I'm able to swap. I am able to catch a Frenzy Plant, which is going to be double resisted. It's not going to help me too much, in all honesty, because they've probably got like something like a Mudboy in the back anyways, but they go for a Sludge Bomb. We still hang on. Ivysaur fairly bulky, and we do make it to our own Sludge Bomb. This should be enough damage to KO from this range, and it does get rid of the Venusaur. Now they come back in with the Talonflame. We're going to come in with our Probopass. Gonna shield up the first charge move. I don't think they make it to 2 charge moves, so we do get the Rock Throw farm down, but they've got a Lantern in the back, and this unfortunately is game over. We lose CMP anyway, so gonna let the first move go through as they go for a Surf. We're now gonna go for a Rock Slide. Honestly, even if they let this go through, I cannot Rock Throw farm them down in time. The Sparks are doing slightly too much damage here, so I'm just gonna let the move go through, concede the match there, and unfortunately we do end up losing that game. But GG's to that opponent there. So going into the next battle, we're going to see our Shadow Moltres as a Talonflame substitute. We're now going to swap into our Roserade here. Going to take the move there. They swap into a Dugong. We do at least make it to a Grass Knot. I would prefer to run Leaf Storm. As the opponent lets that go through, we could have flip switch advantage, but we still put them into range where we can just farm them down with the spark damage here from the Chinchou, and let's see what the opponent wants to do. The opponent's going to come back in with their Charger Bug. We're going to go straight for a Bubble Beam. Unfortunately, Bubble Beam really not going to do an awful lot of damage in this matchup, but it will debuff their attack. And honestly, I'm just going to hope that I can beat whatever's in the pack with my Shadow Moltres here, because, yeah, this Chinchou isn't really going to be able to do an awful lot here. We're going to go for another Bubble Beam, and we are going to overfarm here, and then I'm going to swap. I'm going to try and catch what I hope should be another X-Scissor. It is the X-Scissor. It's double resisted, double debuffed, but they've got a Carbink in the back, and they're able to Rock Throw farm me all the way down there. And I'm just going to concede the match there, because otherwise that's just a waste of time playing that out. But GG's to that opponent there. Into the next battle, we're going to see Vikavolt as our Charger Bug replacement. Pretty similar Pokemon in terms of the typing. It is just the evolution, but obviously a lot worse stats for the Great League. We go for a Discharge here. You could argue that I could have gone for the X-Scissor, as I would have made it to a second X-Scissor, and that would put them into Rock Throw farm down range before they make it to back-to-back Weather Balls. But here, we're going to shield the first one. They will make it to a second Weather Ball, so I swap into my Shadow Cloyster. This will be double resisted damage, so it really doesn't do an awful lot. But unfortunately, the opponent is able to hard punish me with a Medicham. They're also running Power Up Punch as well, so certainly not ideal. We're going to go for an Icy Wind here. Icy Wind going to debuff their attack. Avalanche would actually do a lot of damage in this matchup, but I'm not running it, unfortunately. We're going to come in, go for a Rock Slide on the CMP tie with the next Power Up Punch, and Rock Slide barely doesn't take them out, which is so painful. I'm going to have to use my final shield, even though it's just a an Ice Punch there. And they've got a Quagsire in the back anyway, so it was already game over. And unfortunately, this is going to be an Aqua Tail. It will be enough damage to take out Diancie, and unfortunately, we do end up losing that game. But GG's to that opponent there, and into the final battle I did for this challenge. We're going to lead into Galvantula, and unfortunately this isn't a winning matchup, but I can outpace them to the first charge move, and you might as well throw first up against Galvantula because they're typically going to shield the first move anyways. I'm now going to shield this up. They're going to debuff my attack, but I will be able to make it to a high horsepower, and this is going to do some pretty good damage up against the Galvantula. It gets them very low, unfortunately not quite enough to take them out though. So Lunge going to be taking me out. I'm going to come in with my Shadow Gallade, go for the Confusion farm down, and the opponent's got a Charm Alolan Ninetales in the back, and I make a pretty significant mistake in this battle here. You're going to see towards the end of the video, but here I'm going to shield up the Weather Ball. I'm going to overfarm as much as I possibly can before throwing, and the opponent swaps into their Lantern, so this is actually really good for me. I can now go for the Earth Power, dealing huge damage there, but it doesn't quite put them into Mud Slap farm down range. So now I have to fire off a Body Slam, taking out the Lantern. The opponent does play that right, and they are able to fully charm farm me down. I do at least grab the final shield here. Body Slam will grab that final shield, but I thought I left with a Leaf Blade loaded. Unfortunately I didn't, and the opponent knows they can go for one charm, then throw the charge move to guarantee the KO, and unfortunately we do end up losing that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.